This week on the Into the Mind podcast, we have a very special guest. Everybody please welcome James McVey. James is a musician, songwriter, watch enthusiast, and he's also part of the globally successful band, the Vamps. What do you think the dark side of fame is?
I don't think that as humans, we are meant to be what we say is famous, quote unquote. I think the scary thing with fame is how...
Today we dive into what life really looks like behind the scenes of fame. From navigating the pressures of the music industry to finding a purpose beyond the stage. In this podcast, James opens up about the dark side of fame, about identity, creativity, mental health, but most of all, he talks about some pretty incredible watches. I'm a watch enthusiast, so that kind of excited me. I honestly think you guys will learn so much from this conversation, and I'm super excited to share it with you. Before we start though, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, 5-star button, whatever it is, wherever you are, I'd really appreciate it. The more 5 stars, follows, all that kind of stuff that we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the show. So thank you guys so much for the support, and without further ado, this is the Into the Mind podcast. My name is Harrison Brown, and please welcome James McVey. Thanks so much for hopping on. We made it happen.
Let's go, dude. It was within 48 hours? We were like, let's do it. Sick.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Normally it's weeks in advance.
Well, does it show that both of us sort of don't have real jobs where we can be like, let's do it at 3:30 on a Wednesday, you know?
Yeah, I was talking to my friends about this last night actually, because we went to like the Stand Comedy Club, and they were talking to me about like what their normal weekday like looks like, and they were like, oh, we need to plan this in for the weekend, we need to do this, we need to do that, and I was like, see, there's like pros and cons, because you work through the weekend when you work for yourself, but also the cons of that is like you have no structure.
100%, man. Like I always say that I don't know what a Monday morning is, but I also don't know what like a Friday night is. And you've nailed it actually. Like normally most times, you know, that people have as their fun celebration times, especially over like not so much nowadays for me, but you know, when I was mega busy, all of those like public holidays or things like Christmas or New Year's Eve or even like Halloween or all of that, or like Easter holidays, that's normally when we tour. So like I'm so used to being the polar opposite to everyone else during those things, you know? So yeah. And do you actively avoid those kind of things now? Like I think looking at what I do, I'm like, oh well, it's the summer holidays, all the schools are off, so I'm gonna not go anywhere because I know it's busy. Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's hard, man. Like I forget every summer that kids are off school as well. I live on the same road as a school, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh right, there's loads of people around. So it's just funny how like when you're going through those, you know, when you're at school and you're that kind of age, your whole life centers around, well, weekends and then like holidays and all that stuff. And it's funny how quick you could like adjust back out of that to forgetting that ever existed. Yeah, but with work now, like I said, I would very much be the sort of person that would typically be really, really busy throughout the summer. Like, you know, it's the first like kind of purposefully quiet summer I've had in 10 years. So normally, at the moment, right through till September, it'd be every weekend there would be like a festival or a summer show. And then, Easter holidays would always have been a Vamps tour, either Easter or we would have done it October for the kind of the half terms, you know, when our sort of the hangover from when our fan base was, I guess, school age. And then, Christmas used to be the only time I'd ever get off. So now it's quite nice that, like this summer, for example, I'm actually going on holiday with my wife for the first time in 10 years in the summer, which I'm looking forward to.
Wow, that's insane. And so that's purposeful, right? You've kind of purposefully kept this summer to be a little bit more clear for you so that you have a little bit more structure?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, so the Vamps, which is the kind of normal day job that has been for sort of 12 years, has been very, very busy for forever, really. You know, we did sort of 5 albums in 6 years, which is quite uncommon in the music industry. You know, normally, if you think about sort of some of the big bands, they'd maybe do an album every 3 years or whatever. We were very, very quick to release albums, and that was brilliant. But that meant that we were insanely busy for well, the first 10 years, I would say I always sort of remember being sent calendars from my manager, who's a little bit of a dinosaur with technology, so he would physically send us the calendars. And I remember being sort of 18, 19, 20 years old, getting these calendars, and for 6 months, actually longer, probably closer to 12 months of my future would be taken up by something, whether that's like, God, I've got like, have you ever done this, right? So how do I turn this off? I've just had a barrage of texts in my ears because I've turned my laptop on for the first time in like 3 weeks. Okay, apologies if people listening could hear that. I'll just say that again. So I'd have like 12 months of my life, like every single day would be booked. And now, because we finished the 5 albums that we did with EMI, and so now technically the Vamps is unsigned, which is amazing because one, we finished the deal on like amicable terms. It wasn't like we didn't get dropped or we didn't leave. It was just an amazing chapter, and we recouped as well, which means we own our music again, which is just brilliant and very fortunate because a lot of musicians and bands don't do that. But that's put us in this really lovely position where we can take a little bit of time to recalibrate, really figure out what we want to do, think about future directions and other projects that we've all been doing. And it means that for me, I can really throw myself into watches for the summer. So yeah, this is the first time in forever that we've kind of got a very quiet summer, which is, man, it's brilliant. But I already miss touring. I was just on Instagram looking at some like touring videos of the Vamps from 2 years ago, and I was like, dude, like that is the best thing ever. I know I was just moaning about being really busy, but that is, I love it, dude.
Is there no feeling quite like it? Like I've heard artists describe it as like this euphoric, that them coming out onto stage is just like a humongous high, and it's almost like you get addicted to it. Like, is it something? Would you describe it as kind of an addiction?
It's really weird. I actually really didn't enjoy. I mean, so when I first started music, probably 15 was when I first started doing shows, or maybe like 14, kind of did pubs on the South Coast. That was like the real buzz, the real energy, which is ironic because there'd be no one watching. And with the band, the first tour was just like the craziest adrenaline rush ever. And then oddly, and I hate this now, and looking back, I'm in a much better place with it, but I really I think what it was is I went into the band being very shy, very underconfident. And I think going from that extremity to being on stage was like a massive contrast. And in some ways, it forced me to, I guess, find a sense of confidence I'd never had. But at the same time, it actually made me go more inwards. So I would be on stage and I wouldn't be nervous to go on stage, which is weird, but on stage I wouldn't really appreciate or enjoy it too much. I would feel quite self-critical. I'd think, oh, have I messed up this guitar part, or what? How I wasn't really oddly, I wasn't very present with it. I was thinking about things that were going on off stage and things that were happening in the future. And it's only really been, I'd say, the last 5 years where I've really, and I think, the reason that I got to that point was because there were so many shows, and it was over and over and over again that kind of became the norm. So, if you think about maybe when I was starting out music, I would do maybe a gig. I mean, I'd try and get as many gigs as I could, but the reality is it'd be one maybe every few weeks. So then that was like one moment, like an hour of that one night where I'd be like, wow, this is incredible. But I was very fortunate. But what then happened is it was kind of every night for 3 months. And my body and mind, I think, got used to this weird kind of adrenaline rush. And I was going through various things that the average kind of late teen, early 20-year-old person goes through, like mental health things, and I kind of, performing live was one of these things that I didn't enjoy for a long time. And yeah, thank God the last sort of 5 years I've really kind of done a lot of work on trying to stay present, stay focused. And now I think one of the biggest shifts for me was actually seeing the audience as people, which sounds like such a stupid thing, but actually I think a lot of people that go into doing performing, they're actually encouraged to try and not focus too much on the audience and just kind of focus on what you're doing. But for me, actually the opposite of that was really, really beneficial, because I would then look at people and I would think, oh, like that guy there is just like me when I go to a show. Or actually, what's really been beneficial is some of my friends have got children that are kind of the age that some fans are. So maybe, I don't know, 15-year-old daughters or sons. And now I think about, well, there's people that I know that go to gigs that are that age. So I think connecting those gaps between me and the audience was a really great tool of being able to like feel more comfortable on stage. And therefore now I'm like, yeah, there might be 10,000 people there, but they are 10,000, like, you know, they are humans. We connect on a certain kind of level. They've actually paid money to come there and see the band perform. They want us to succeed. They want to have a nice evening, and they want to have fun. They want to let go and escape from all the crazy stuff that's happening outside. And that has been a really good thing for me now. So when I do shows, and even when I do solo shows, which are to like sometimes like 70 people, I absolutely love that, the kind of energy now and the connection. And maybe this just comes with getting a bit older and feeling a bit more comfortable within myself and my skin. But dude, like the adrenaline now I get is like nothing I've had before. And actually, you go back to a hotel afterwards or whatever, or you sat in the van, and like your body, like even if mentally I'm like feel like I'm kind of coming down and relaxing, there's like this kind of weird buzz in your body, and you're like, you feel like a child again, man. I love it.
Yeah. Well, why do you think that was? Like, I think you're so right. People get kind of, they almost see they see numbers instead of people, right? So like they might see, we had 100,000 people attending, but we should be on 120,000, but they're not actually measuring. Like, you put 100,000 people into a room, it's a fucking big room. So it's like sometimes it's kind of knowing the scale of what's actually going on and not being blinded by the numbers. Do you think that was almost part of it? Like you were focused on the business end, and you were saying, oh, well, these are the numbers, but you weren't focusing on maybe the connection part?
Yeah, perhaps. I think also like it's kind of it's down to kind of, I guess the reason that I struggled is actually kind of a consequence of a really good thing happening. What I mean by that is because I was very, very fortunate in the early years. I mean, it's funny actually, when I was doing my solo music before I founded the Vamps, like it wasn't really going anywhere. Like I was trying my best, like working really hard, and it was just kind of, there'd be the occasional thing where I might get a support show in like a pub, or I might have got like 100 plays on a song on MySpace, or one of my covers might have hit like even like 1,000 views on YouTube, which as like a 15-year-old kid, that was amazing. Growing up in Dorset with not a massive music scene, that was kind of it. But then with the Vamps, I was very, very fortunate that it just worked, and I think it worked so well in those early days that people presumed it was a contrived, put together TV show or Simon Cowell-esque machine that had manufactured this band, which was the Vamps. Because everything we did just kind of connected and worked. And I think what actually happened is, so that's obviously an amazing thing, and the trajectory was brilliant. But I always say, like, if everything you do works, then a typical trajectory of like a positive trend on a graph, that positive trend on the graph kind of just turns into a horizontal line, because that is the new norm. And I think that's why I maybe had got used to, unintentionally, but got used to a certain degree of feeling, which was amazing. And actually really interesting, because I didn't come from, my parents are incredibly supportive, but I didn't come from this this family of being like, oh, you're going to succeed. Like, you got to win, blah, blah, blah. So, like, I never was the sort of person that was just like, yeah, cool, I'm really successful. That's like, whatever, like, this is my life. But that's not me. On all four of us from very, very kind of, I guess, like, stereotypical nuclear family settings where, like, I think the most competitive thing we did was maybe play football. Like, so to find ourselves in this band that was just, really, like, in the UK at least, like, rivaling One Direction in those early years, but didn't have that TV show, that crazy kind of public platform from day one. Finding ourselves there was wild, and I think, the consequence of that, though, was for me to kind of feel a little bit numb, or perhaps used to that almost coasting, which is hard, because at the time, like, we were working so hard, but I think because we were constantly looking to the next thing, because the industry, especially now, dude, it's like, if you're not thinking about what's happening next week, then you quite quickly get left behind. I think I was just used to constantly thinking for the future, and therefore
the chase. Almost.
The chase, man. And again, especially because like it really felt like we were in the driving seat of our success. Like, yes, we were very lucky that we signed a record deal and we had a team that were brilliant, but like it was kind of in our hands. We didn't get emails. I think there's this kind of misconception, and maybe this does happen. In fact, I'm sure it does with certain artists, but I think there's this misconception that, and I had this belief, you sign a record deal and two things happen. All of a sudden you're like a millionaire, and then two, other people kind of like do your career for you and you sit back. And me being that sort of 14-year-old kid writing songs in my bedroom in Dorset, always thought that would happen. But actually when you sign the deal, the hard work starts for several reasons. I mean, primarily the fact that you're effectively like a few £100,000 in debt technically to a company that you need to, the record label that you need to pay back. So I think because we were in that driving seat, we were so hungry and determined to carry it on that one of those consequences was, I didn't really live in the moment. I wasn't particularly present, and I don't think I appreciated it at the time. But now in retrospect, dude, like it was the best time ever. And now I love touring and everything to do with music in a way that I didn't in my kind of early 20s.
To describe to me that first moment of walking. So I've got this kind of, I don't have a fear of it, and it's kind of weird to say because in front of a camera, it's that kind of like exposure therapy, right? I've done it so much that it just feels normal. There's a couple of people that have asked me to do like talks and stuff like that now, or university lectures on how I kind of came up in videography and photography. And I really struggle to talk in front of people or be in front of a group of people and discuss. I think it's the comfortability of knowing what's recorded. I can crop and amend, and it's not kind of live. But like, take me through. You're like a young kid. What age were you when you first went onto stage for the big tours?
I mean, big tours. The first Vamps tour was supporting McVey, which were a band that really inspired me growing up. And that was their Memory Lane tour, which I think was 2000. It was either 2013. I think it was 2013. And the first show was Swindon Leisure Centre, which was probably around 2,000 capacity, which was like, I would say, like 10 times bigger than anything I'd ever been on a stage doing. I'd done things where I'd been like a random support thing where I'd go up and play a few songs like completely on my own, and there may have been 150 people in like a bar somewhere once, but actually being on stage as like a conventional band, I would say, that was the first. That was definitely the first Vamp show. And the feeling of that was wild because one, there was like 2,000 people there, but two, we were stood side stage with Dougie, who plays bass in McVey. And like, to us, he was like an idol. And, he's like this like famous musician. And then the thought of like, wow, it's like a pinch me moment. We're stood here with him side stage, and he kind of like did a little huddle. He was like, oh, come on guys, it's going to be a great show, blah, blah, blah. That to then go out on stage with an audience that, at this point in time, I think we'd maybe posted a few things on YouTube, but I don't think we'd actually released any music at that point because we started on YouTube. A lot of people forget that the Vamps started from us posting covers on YouTube. That was like, because it was the era of YouTube, that sort of 2012, well, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014 was really there was a big kind of clique of YouTubers in the UK doing kind of like, I guess, the original like vlogging things. But then in America, there were quite a few people. There were bands like Boyce Avenue, like Before You Exit, Tyler Ward, Alex Goot, all these people doing covers. And for us, we kind of thought, well, let's do that in the UK, but do it in a way that would modify the songs to make them more in keeping with the style that we wanted to go for, which, in those early days of Brad and I writing songs on a weekend, we wanted to be the next Kooks. Like the Kooks were our favourite band and we thought they were really cool, and Brad kind of had a slightly more rocky alternative inclination musically, so he was listening to like Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters, AC/DC, Bombay Bicycle Club, things like that, whilst I was more kind of in that pop folk world. So whilst he was listening to that, I was listening to Taylor Swift, for example, or I don't know, like, or like the folky side would be a guy called Damien Rice. So when we'd see these covers of these massive songs, you know, like One Direction's a good example. They did that song like Story of My Life, which I think, I can't remember who wrote it. I think I don't think that was an Ed song, but like one of those songs that was a bit more like folky. We realized like, well, we could do this in a way that's quite musical, and that's how we kind of started on YouTube. And it was just a completely different time, but it meant that from day one we were able to present this like world of musicianship meets pop, which I think did us well in those early days for sure.
Whose idea was that's quite forward thinking for like a young? What age were you? Were you 2011 is when it was founded. So what age were you then? 22?
No, I was 18, I think. Was I 18? 19 maybe. Wait, no, how? I don't know how old I was. No, I was around that age. Whatever.
Yeah, but like, see, at that age, like when I think of, I suppose I'm perhaps a little bit different because I never went to university, so I started work straight away. But looking at the majority of people I know, from 18 to 23, like they're not thinking about the future. They're thinking about you getting drunk at the weekend. They're thinking about girls. They're thinking about hooking up. They're thinking about going to the club. Like, that takes quite a lot of discipline to be like, no, I'm going to write this weekend. I'm going to post it on YouTube. I'm going to keep consistent with it and try and grow a platform. How did you get 4 testosterone-fueled boys all in the same room to do that?
I think, well, very fortunate that, I mean, fortunate, odd when I say this, weird, that I think the 4 of us had tried music and kind of failed on our own. So we were fortunate in the failure of that because it meant that when the Vamps came along, we realized that there was an opportunity to do something serious. I think also it's important to credit, like, our parents were equally aligned. And, you know, for example, when I first messaged our singer Brad and said, look, I'm making a band, would you be up for songwriting? You know, his parents were like, yeah, this guy that's randomly Facebooked you, from like 3 hours away, is like, yeah, he can come and stay for the weekend, and vice versa with my parents. And then Tristan's parents would be where we would rehearse and do all of the original band rehearsal. So I think there were a few things that kind of meant that I think we realized the opportunity. Our parents had definitely been there saying, look, this is really good. You should do this. And I think there was probably, I mean, I'm the oldest, and it was very much the case of, I was very fortunate at school that definitely by my A-levels, I'd applied myself and I was quite academic. And I was very, very fortunate. I could have gone in theory to any university that I'd want to. I mean, within reason. I think with like Oxford and Cambridge, you also have to like fucking be able to write Latin. Like, you know, I'm not doing that. I don't mean that. But like, you know, I kind of was top percent of my school year, and then I was sat there being like, I'm not going to apply to university. I'm going to do the band. So I think that was a really scary kind of jump into the deep end for me, which meant that obviously plan B, I had like A-levels, but I didn't really have the plan B that all my mates that I were stayed in Dorset did, where they had a place at university. They knew kind of their potential route. Yeah, path, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, the Vamps either works or I'm kind of screwed because obviously you can apply to go to uni later and all that. But like for me, it was like, no, I have to do the band. The other boys, I think, were kind of in a similar boat. But I think that the reality is, dude, like, we just absolutely loved music. So again, if referencing like TV show bands or things like that, it feels like sometimes in those environments, people are doing the music for the wrong reason, you know, whether it's to make money, to be famous, all that stuff. And yeah, those things are great too as like a consequence. But for us, we were writing songs anyway. We would have done a band anyway. We were just fortunate that like it worked. So I think there was the drive. We knew the opportunity was there. It was a really exciting time in the music industry, especially with like 1D. You know, it's a bit of a dirty like word, I guess, saying, well, 2 words, One Direction. In, you know, to a lot of people presume it is in the music industry. But what that band were able to achieve around the world was insane. And I think, people would be lying if they didn't admit every record label in the world was like, how the hell are they doing that? And other people, they're the same age as me. Like, I used to do a couple of gigs with Liam, like before the Vamps. So like, we're all the same kind of people, kind of knew everyone. And I think everyone was like, okay, how are they doing that? Let's do that. So there was this real moment in the industry where we were like, let's do it.
This podcast is brought to you by Chisholm Hunter. Chisholm Hunter are the place to get your luxury jewelry or luxury watches. They're an authorized retailer for Tag Heuer, Tudor, Omega, and many, many more. Pretty much all the watch brands you can think of, they're authorized retailers for those brands. And that's super important, especially in a day where unfortunately there's so many fakes out there and you need trust with a family-run business more than anything now. And Chisholm Hunter are family run. They've been family run since 1857, which makes them over 165 years old. Yes, you heard me, 165 years old. They're world renowned for their luxury diamonds and jewelry. And what strikes me about Chisholm Hunter is that they aren't owned by a massive conglomerate. And in today's society, now you have the likes of Amazon, you have the likes of Facebook, you have tons of massive conglomerates that own the majority share of companies. Now, the good thing about Chisholm Hunter is that it isn't owned by a massive conglomerate. So their customer service is genuinely the best that I've ever experienced. If you want to get something for yourself or a loved one, make sure you head to chisholmhunter.co.uk. That is chisholmhunter.co.uk. And while you're there, use the discount code CHSUB, that is CHSUB, for an exclusive 10% off your next purchase on selected lines. That is CHSUB, that is CHSUB on the Chisholm Hunter website or in one of their 29 stores throughout the UK. And without further ado, let's get back to this incredible conversation with James.
I think it's pretty incredible though. Like, I think that a lot of people get complacent because they have mild comfortability. So like in a 9 to 5, kind of, I don't want to say run of the mill because that's not the right phrase, but maybe a job that you're not quite happy with, but you're kind of just keeping above water, it actually restricts you from doing what you want to do because you have a certain degree of comfortability, but it's not uncomfortable enough to quit the job and to do what you want to do. So I think that the fact that you didn't go into that comfortable situation of, oh, well, I'm just going to do 4 years in university, I'll just do 2 years of a job just to, get enough money to keep going. The fact that you didn't have that, it kind of meant you gave it 100% instead of giving it 70% because you had this other stuff that you were doing in work. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. It was, I think, again, I think we just had this kind of like Goldilocks moment in the industry as well, where it was, I mean, look, it's always been hard to break a band, and I'm not trying to discredit what the Vamps has achieved, but now to break a band, it with Spotify, with TikTok, it's ridiculous. When we did it, it was still really bloody hard, but there were kind of, I guess, fewer targets that you had to really strive towards. And look, don't get me wrong, those targets were still very difficult to get, but it was all about things like, the social media platforms were Twitter. Instagram was a bit later, actually, for us. It was Twitter and YouTube. There's 2 platforms there. And if you spent an hour every evening replying to people's mentions on Twitter, or you spent like an evening doing a YouTube cover and then getting in the comments when it went live, like, I mean, you know how YouTube works. Like, it was a much easier, or not easier, but a smaller thing to target your attention on. And then you didn't have streaming and Spotify. You could have like things like pre-orders that people would actually pre-order because you were able to have your song playing on the radio on the radio or on TV without the song actually being out, which meant that people could hear the song. They could hear the song in full on Capital, Radio 1, Radio 2, whatever, and then pre-order that song straight there because they know they're going to like it. Now, for our second album, the law changed in the music industry, which is called day and date, which meant you could no longer have a song out there without it being able to purchase. So I know obviously on TikTok you can have like a 30-second clip, whatever, but it was so different where you think you'd have 6 weeks of hearing a song on the radio. That's a long time to be like, actually, I do like that song, I'll pre-order it. So it meant that pre-orders were such a thing, and we were very fortunate with with the Vamps, and we still are. We have a very invested fan base that are the sorts of people that would download a song for 99p or something. But that meant that by the time the song actually came out, we were already higher up on the charts than a lot of other people. But now, with the charts being so dominated by Spotify and TikTok, it means that, you know, you have the Ed Sheeran types that will release a song, and because they get so many streams on Spotify, that now counts for the official charts. And it's just meant that brand new people, obviously you do get these songs that kind of come out of nowhere and they're like a TikTok moment, and that's great and it's really cool, and that, you know, that charts. But the reality is it's so hard to break an artist or a band now. There's also less people in the industry that are willing to invest in you as an artist. So again, like when we started, we signed a 5-album record. 4 albums, and then sort of they say it's like a greatest hits style thing. We actually didn't do that, but so say 5 albums. That's really up to 10 years of a company investing time and money into you as an artist. Now you have these things where people are getting signed for like one song at a time. So we had, like I say, we worked very hard. It was really, really difficult, but it just felt I could comprehend kind of a direction and a journey back then of what we needed to do in a way I couldn't now, because the reality is now you could post TikTok all day, every day, and you'd still not get anywhere. Like for a lot of people, it's a weird environment, but at the same time, just to kind of, I guess, like play devil's advocate, now it means that there's this amazing blend of genre. So there's I think that like Post Malone, for example, doing that country album, that's like a really interesting like mix where social media, TikTok, Spotify definitely has enabled us as the consumer to have our minds more open to these worlds colliding, and therefore it means that artists, you know, on my side of the fence, we, you know, the Vamps, in theory, we could do like not that we would necessarily, but we could do like a hip hop themed album, and it wouldn't be as crazy as that would have been 10 years ago. I remember when we did our EDM album in 2014, 15, maybe around there. Spotify was definitely a thing because that really helped us, but it felt a little bit alien to the fan base. They were like, this is crazy. Like, why are the Vamps doing this? And fortunately, it was amazing. It worked really well for us. But now I feel, when you hear a song on the radio, I don't think there's too many people thinking, oh, this is blah, blah, blah. Why have they got a banjo on the song? Because those genres have been mixed. So I have to give a bit of credit to Spotify and TikTok, but it's a hell of a lot harder to be successful in the industry now.
Is it as profitable as it used to be? Like you look at these sharky contracts, and you know, Taylor Swift is someone that came out and she got the rights to her old music back, but there's disputes, and some people make it really, really big, but then all of a sudden the ownership and rights to all their music belongs to the label and not to them. And a lot of the time the labels will take advantage of younger people. I think it's brilliant that, from what you're saying, that you now own your music, you've got that back, and it's within the Vamps group where it should be, in my opinion. Is that still going on? Like, is it still as sharky as it used to be, the music industry?
I think so. I think there's a lot of things that happen sort of in the management end that, I mean, not with us, fortunately, but I think also this world of, like, again, like a bit of a blend of some people are some people musicians or quote unquote influencers or celebrities. And I think in that world, there's a lot of sharks, because some of the brand deals that you see, like hundreds of thousands of pounds for like social media content, you know, you realize when you get into the nitty gritty that there's people taking cuts and agencies representing other people on both sides, and the managers, and then all this stuff. So that is where I think a lot of people get screwed over. I mean, it's hard because it'd be easy to just like diss record labels, as a lot of people do. And there are definite areas where artists still get screwed over. But I think there was a period of time, maybe 5-6 years ago, where I thought record labels are dying. Why would you need them? What's the point? Because a lot of people, you know, you can outsource, in theory, everything a record label offers, whether that's marketing, radio, streaming service, pluggers, PR, A&R, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you've, like, I always think in the industry, it's all about trust and getting a team around you that really believes in you. And I'm not saying that that's a guarantee at a record label. If anything, actually far from it, because record label staff move around all the time and, all of a sudden you've got no team left. But I stand by the absolute best scenario to be in is actually one or two places, and they're kind of polar opposites. On one hand, it's having me on my own in this room, writing a song, producing a song, putting it online, and all of us, somehow it's gone absolutely massive because I own everything. I'd make shitloads of money. If I did a song in this room that did, I don't know, 500 million streams, and I owned everything, it would be like, let's go, we're going to the Hamptons. Like, it'd be crazy. That never really happens. So that's impossible, really. It happens to people, but it's very rare. The other
Zach Bryan, that happened to, right?
Did he? I just saw he sold his catalog, though. I don't know. Maybe.
I think he was in the military, and then he used to do covers, and then he wrote a song, and it went viral on Twitter. And I think that's how he kind of paved his way. He's very much, it's him and his brother. But I think that's how he is doing so incredible, because he's essentially one guy.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy. That's insane then, because I read recently, I'm going to get this figure wrong, but I want to say it was like £500 million or something. He sold, maybe $750,000. He sold his like catalog, so hit the ownership of his music to someone, and that's I don't blame him. That's crazy. So it's you either have that end or the other end, which is having a really, really invested record label that, or as a team of people that really believe in you. But that's really hard to get as well. So I think there are a lot of sharks. People at the end of the day as well, I always think this, like, for the majority of people that work in the music industry, not the musicians or even really the producers, but people that work in like the offices, that it is a job for them, and it's quite rare to find someone that it spills into a real passion and like an emotional connection to something they're working on, right? No one's going to sell your music for you or promote your music better than you are yourself, because it's your thing. So I think, again, like whilst I say like it's really important to have a team, I also think it's easy, and I've definitely been guilty of this in the years of the Vamps, presuming that other people will make you successful for you, and that's not how it works. So I think, yes, there are a lot of sharks. There's a lot of people out for themselves. There's a lot of people in the music industry that don't really care about music. They care about business. And it's just about finding your tribe that you can rely on and trust. And those people are, I bet my house on, those people are not going to be the very mega famous like manager moguls that everyone knows. It's going to be someone that you've known for a while that has your best interest at heart, and finding those people is really hard, and it'll take longer probably to be successful. But I'd rather travel the world with people like that than people that drive me insane.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When it comes to manager moguls, it's probably a trending subject that I'd love your take on here. But P. Diddy and him, I mean, he's got. Did he get charged of 2 of the 5 things he was accused of?
I don't know, man.
That is insane. What were your kind of takes on that? Do you know anything about that kind of stuff?
To be honest, and I don't know how, but I haven't, because it's so quite kind of close to home with it being my industry. No, I mean, I don't know much about that. I do know that like stuff like, especially in that time when, because I don't know the ins and outs of the cases, but I imagine a lot of the stuff that's alleged to have happened was before kind of like social media, right? I imagine it's probably going back 20 years or so, right? And I know that in that period of time, it was a crazy, crazy industry. And this is absolutely in no way condoning. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is people could do stuff without it being documented. So nothing could come out from anyone within reason that I'd be surprised of, like, even like all like, I know again it's all alleged, but like the Russell Brand stuff, it's like you just don't know, because it's not. It's from a time where, one, there was a lot more like drug taking from musicians and things like that. The party thing, it was just a wild time, and I think sadly people use those wild times to take advantage of vulnerable people. And also those poor victims didn't feel that they had a voice, perhaps in, and again, it's not their fault at all. But now with social media, I feel like people, thank God, can't get away with half as much as they perhaps could have done back then. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know any of those people involved. It's just awful. But I'm not surprised, to be fair.
Yeah, it's you're probably right. I think it's almost like, is people's ego just getting so big that they think they perhaps can't get caught, or they think that they can do things that are above the law. It's tricky. It's tricky. I think that you're right, though. Back then, especially, it was so drug fueled that I wouldn't be surprised if the guys or girls involved couldn't even remember what had happened, because it's so drug. Like, there's people, I won't mention any names, but there's DJs and stuff that I don't know them directly, but I've been in the same circles as them. I'll tell you after. But they've taken, I don't know, Xanax, Valium, and all of a sudden they've got a court case, and they're thinking, I have no idea what happened. Like, yeah. I can't remember what happened, even if I wanted to. I don't know if this girl or guy is telling the truth, because I have no idea. It's difficult, but especially when you're in the public eye like that, it's like, it's knowing what cases are genuine and what ones are money grabbing. And sometimes you do get money grabbing cases. Like there was a girl recently that accused, who's the guy that Eminem kind of like made Eminem who he was? Rihanna's
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre. So there was a woman that came out after the string of accusations on P. Diddy, and said that Dr. Dre had, I can't remember exactly what it was, so I won't say, but it was pretty vulgar stuff. Dr. Dre immediately said, I can't believe you've said this. This is disgusting. I have a child or two children. I want to take you to court. And as soon as he said, I want to take you to court, she dropped it and said, actually, I was making the whole thing up. So it's hard to know sometimes whether someone is going for money and fame or genuine. And it's like towing that line between the two. It's difficult.
It's really hard. And I think, two things, like, and it's really easy, like, to, when I say what I'm about to say, that you're like, it's sort of like, it's diluting the real issue. But okay, so first of all, I think the actual, like, conviction rate of rape is awful. It's like less than 1%, I think, right? So that's a real problem there. So I think actually getting things in court it's ridiculously hard to get a successful conviction, and that's when something's actually happened. So you've got that, just to put that out there. I'm on that side of it. But then you do have the other side of, like, and again, I'm not saying that anyone involved in the cases that we've mentioned is saying this, but social media has kind of enabled this notion of main character syndrome, where people feel that, and I think everyone should have the right to speak and say what they, freedom of speech and to be heard with things. But I think there is this like kind of strange phenomenon at the moment that's been happening in the past few years, where, like, people feel they have to comment or be part of everything and every detail of every event that's happening. And I do wonder whether some of these, maybe not what we've been discussing, but just in general, people want to shout and have attention about things. And I just wonder whether sometimes there are people that are a little bit just desperate to be listened to. And they maybe bend the truth or sensationalize certain things. But again, it's really hard, because, like I said before, there are so many people. The majority of times that these horrible things actually do happen, nothing ever ends up in court. It's a really horrible kind of contrast there, which I hate. And I don't really know what the answer is, because, like, I feel like sick immediately, like, questioning when people make allegations, because I think that's really fucked up. But then I know what some people are like on social media, and then I know the other side of it, where it's like, I mean, thank God, like, I've never been accused of anything I've not done, but, like, that must be really hard, because it's very easy to be cancelled as well. So a headline that, and especially in the fucking in British like tabloids, like, people will write headlines often without much grounds of evidence underneath. All it would take is, like, one headline, blah, blah, blah's done this, when there's absolute, because it's like what someone's tweeted about it and it turns out not to be true, all of a sudden to, like, wash away that image. Headline and that image is really hard. And I always draw the reference of, like, cancel culture, where, in the UK you can murder someone, do prison time, and then effectively like come back out and sort of be rehabilitated to an extent if you own up to it and all that stuff, which is that's another conversation, prison time, whether it's enough, whatever. But then you can tweet something or be like accused of something that you've not done, and you can never kind of be rehabilitated into society like in that way. Like if the public turn on you, then you're screwed, aren't you? Which is crazy. Like the Cliff Richard thing, where didn't he sue one of the tabloids because they'd made up something or all that stuff? It's just like, it's a crazy one. And all of this is relevant to the question you asked me before about the contrast between the music industry, I guess, now and back then. Like, yes, there was this stuff happening, but before social media, before real social media, it was a slightly less terrifying environment to make music in.
Well, yeah, and it's so anxiety-inducing. Like, it's seriously, when people say things online, and they might say it, flippantly as a joke, and somebody takes it and makes it a headline. And also you have people that accuse or make claims that actually dilutes the real accusations. So, like, let's say there's something that has genuinely happened and it's horrible and it should definitely be taken to court and, figured out and go down the right protocol. But if you have 100 people all shouting at the one time and there's the one person that it's actually happened to, it's like, how do you know who's telling the truth and who's lying? Yeah. Who's just wanting attention and who's lying? And it's like, and it's horrible because these things definitely do happen, but you almost can't see the wood from the trees because there's so many people shouting on social media at the one time that you just don't know. Have you ever, like, how did you find the transition into social media? Because you said when the Vamps started, it was like, I'm guessing there was like Facebook and Twitter, and now it's Instagram, TikTok, obviously YouTube as well, and there's so many different facets and it's got so much bigger. How have you found the scrutiny that comes alongside that?
I think I was, well, first of all, what you said before, and now they've like removed fact checkers and things. It's just another environment altogether, isn't it? But I think with me, like we were very fortunate with the band that for the vast majority of the time, we didn't really have any hate per se. And I think that's down to, I think the image that the band kind of projected into the industry, definitely in the early days, was kind of what we are, which is, four relatively normal guys from relatively normal backgrounds. And I think we kind of had this kind of tag of being like nice guys in the industry, which is lovely, like great. Like hopefully we are nice guys.
Better than bad guys.
Exactly. But I think there was this kind of thing of like, there would just be certain artists that no matter what they did, even when they didn't do anything wrong, there would be all this stuff on Twitter. And especially like female artists. I always thought in those kind of early days, we used to spend a lot of time with like Fifth Harmony, for example. We did like a tour with them, and like so they had like really, really, really passionate and supportive fans. But like whenever, and they were, I don't know how old they were at this time, but maybe late teens, early 20s. Like I just remember reading comments all the time of things like people like critiquing like what they're wearing or what they thought about them, and I was just thinking like, that is a lot for anyone to deal with. And we fortunately didn't really have that for a long time. I think the only time I really had it was after I did I'm a Celeb in 2018. And fortunately for me, it didn't really affect me too much because I've been very lucky to have a certain degree of exposure for, 6 years before then. I realised that the stuff that maybe the Daily Mail were writing or in those comment sections, I was able to recognise that the person they thought they knew was not me, and I think that's the thing that is quite hard to unpick for people, because it's so easy to take things personally. And even now, man, like I don't get it. I very rarely get it now. But mainly for the fact that I don't use Twitter anymore, like. Since it was taken over, I literally just don't use it, and it seems kind of weird. I've got 1.5 million followers on this platform, and I just don't care. I just neglected it. I'm done. Like I don't want it. Maybe I could sell it. Yeah. I don't know. It's probably worth nothing now with where Twitter's gone. But I that was the platform that it'd be easier to see kind of like hate. And I think now with my Instagram, and I think it'd be quite rare for someone to publicly leave me like a really nasty comment on my Instagram now. Sometimes I get like the odd, like I did this thing the other day, which is, this is probably the only hate I've got in a long time. For my birthday in April, I bought a decommissioned 1886 cavalry carbine.
Nice.
It is an Enfield. And obviously this thing probably hasn't fired in over 100 years. It's an antique. I bought it in an antique shop. And my dog was... I had some birthday cake, and my dog was like walking towards like going to eat it, and I took a photo of me with this like antique gun being like, get away from the cake. and I had like quite a lot of like direct messages, like request messages, so people that don't even follow me. I think that story got 150,000 views, which is a lot more than maybe I'd normally get for like an Instagram story, right? You know, I was like, it clearly had like some. I always wonder how those things kind of go like semi-viral on like stories. It must be like a suggested prompt to people that don't follow me. Anyway, that happened.
It sends, yeah,
it's crazy. And I had a lot of people being like, "How dare you? How dare you be so cruel to an animal?" Blah blah. And I was like, my like kind of. So it's funny, and this is before I did quite a lot of therapy and stuff. And my immediate like response is like, you feel like you're under attack. And what I wanted to say is like, I've been vegetarian for 10 fucking years. Like, I bet you eat meat. I love animals. I've rescued my dog. You know, I'm an ambassador of several animal charities. This is an antique gun. I'm clearly joking. And even if the gun was real, do you honestly think I would post a picture of me shooting my dog on Instagram? I was just like, come on, man. Like, I'm pretty left wing, but I was like, just fucking stop being so sensitive. And that's the only thing. So, but now, really, for me, I don't really get into. I used to do a lot of political debating on the radio, and I used to love it. I thought it was great, and especially around like kind of Brexit and the sort of steps that followed after that. And I really enjoyed it. But I realised I was putting myself in situations where even if I said nothing wrong and had the best intentions, there would always be a certain group of people who would be annoyed with what I say or think certain things about me and slag me off. Like, especially I did a few like I was sort of a panelist on a few sort of daytime TV politics shows for a while, and I thought for a long time that was maybe going to be another thing I'd do more permanently. And then I was like, well, you know what, I don't want to put myself in those situations where, you know, some people thrive in that environment. They love it. And I'm just like, I actually don't care about that. I don't want to do that anymore. So now, dude, I don't really come into much hate. And then when I do, it's almost funny because I'm like I kind of said before, people don't know me. If they're thinking I'm going to shoot my dog for going near a birthday cake, it's just like, you can think that's funny, man. That's not me. So I don't, luckily, mate, touch wood, I don't have any of that stuff in my life anymore.
It's context, though. Like, context is king. And if you take something out of context without knowing the situation, for example, that what you had there is a vintage thing that's never going to fire, even if you wanted it to. But like, it's the context of it, and that I see it especially with the YouTube channel or the podcast or like whatever the niche is. People will take clips or like things that I've said, and they'll stitch them together to make it look like I say something else, and then post it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I bet people just don't look into it. I'm sure that I get it very minimally, especially with the podcast, but the likes of, you know, Joe Rogan, biggest podcast in the world, it's mental. Like, the amount of stuff that people take and just totally twist his words or crop out a bit where he actually explained what he was saying. Yeah. It's really scary. It's just the world of social media is so unbelievably toxic. Like, I don't know, after doing it for, you know, that's where I kind of had my leg up. I started on social media and I managed to do it, photography and videography, but I've kind of grown to be like, this is just copy and pasting. Like, everyone on social media now is doing exactly the same thing. And if you do one thing that's different, you'll have 100,000 people being like, I hate you. Why would I do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, also like the deep fake thing is just another thing. It's like one thing cutting and copying and pasting and whatever, but like the deep fake thing is something that I have no idea the future of, especially with what you do. It's so easy now to have this like AI shit. But then also like a friend of mine is a YouTuber, and he just did like a paid partnership on YouTube, and it was a very, very relevant partnership. The whole video was, it was relevant. The platform he was promoting was something that I use, and ironically, everyone that slagged it off would also use. And I was just kind of thinking, like, these people that are commenting, oh, this is just an ad, blah, blah, blah. Like, what do they think YouTubers do for money? It's like, do you honestly think that... Obviously, you have the odd person that maybe just literally does YouTube for fun. But the people, like... It's funny, these people that are commenting saying, oh, blah, 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 like, I hate... And sorry, this is relevant because what you just said. Someone does something slightly different from the norm and, like, they get hated. And I'm just like, or, like, ostracized for doing it. And I'm like... Okay, so on one hand, you expect this content creator to post a video every single day. And I realize I am like that as a consumer. Well, like, he's my mate, and I'm like, if he's not posted a video when I have my lunch and put on YouTube, like, oh, mate,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? So you've got that on one hand. You expect that demand, yeah, and you also expect a certain level of production now, because it seems that the bar is so high with YouTube videos. You want every, like, cutaway scene of, like, I don't know, like a micro lens on a dial to be like perfect, and you want to see the texture of that shun bun in a way you've not seen in a previous video. But then you also get annoyed when they do, again, very relevant ads. I'm like, how do you think this is working for the YouTuber? And I just feel there needs to be a little bit more grace and consideration for these people, because it's not, I mean, YouTube's great, it's fun, but it's a bloody hard job, which actually now I know a lot about the other side. I have no idea how people like you guys do it, because it's so stressful.
Thinking about, it can be. I don't know. There's so many sides of jobs. Like I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and I mean, you'll be the same. People will see you traveling the world and be like, you have the best job in the world. And it's like, well, I'm incredibly grateful for all the travel I'm able to do and all the things I'm able to experience that others aren't. But at the same time, people don't see the flip side of that, which is my job is to make it look good. So let's say I travel, to the Maldives. I traveled to the Maldives recently with a watch brand, Certina.
Cool.
I was on I think I was on like a 20-hour flight with my videographer. We landed in the Maldives. We had 3 days in the Maldives with jet lag, with everything else going into that, and with 3 tours booked. Plus, we had to go to an island in the middle of nowhere because it was too expensive to stay in the main islands. So you had like a 20-hour flight, a 4-hour wait at the airport. Then you were traveling 3 hours in a boat. Then when you land, you sleep for 4 hours, get up for sunrise. And like this kind of stuff, it's great because you experience incredible things. But it's not a holiday. Like, people look at it and think, oh, you were swimming with manta rays. That's a holiday. You're reviewing the watch in the sun. It's like, actually, this stuff, like, it's difficult. Like, you need to take a 20-kilo backpack around with you. It's fucking 40 degrees, and I'm Scottish. It's like, it doesn't work. But yeah, it's the context thing again, right? It's like people will see one side of it. They'll see the side that you show, that you want them to see, and nobody wants to see, or not. I'd hope nobody wants to see me covered in sweat, a big Scottish hairy guy.
Maybe your OnlyFans subs. That's what they want. Extra content.
Yeah. How did you find the travel side of things?
I mean, again, like kind of I was saying about not really appreciating being on stage in those early years. Travel kind of was that for me as well. Probably for the same reason. I mean, which is ironic because I never traveled until the Vamps. I went to France on family holidays, which was lovely, but it was like a drive for, like, again, grew up on the South Coast, so you drive onto the ferry, you get off in France, and that, so that was it. And again, fortunate I can do that because I know a lot of people, especially nowadays, can't afford to do that at all. But I've been to Spain once, and then all of a sudden it's like a world tour. And like, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but like genuinely going to places that I'd never heard of. And I remember going on the back end of YouTube in the early days, seeing where the demographic was based. And like number 2 was Manila. And I was like, where the hell is Manila? And it's like the Philippines. And I was like, that's interesting. So like, all of a sudden we'd go to the Philippines. So, and I've done a lot of work on myself, and hopefully grown a lot over the last few years. because then I would be very, very highly strung, very stressed, very I was a no person. And I'm not saying I wish I'd done like loads of blow and hooked up with hookers. I'm not saying that, but I think there's a line where like sometimes you should say yes to like, yeah, I will go to that bar tonight, or yeah, I don't know, I will do that. I'll go on that roller coaster. I would always say no, because I was so scared to throw away the opportunity. I was so uptight that I did a lot of traveling, and actually like I would be the person that would be getting up at 6 a.m. to get in the gym, and then, yeah, maybe I'd walk to like a temple in Tokyo, and that would be lovely. But I always have this memory of always feeling very kind of like tetchy, uptight, and not really enjoying what I was doing. I mean, it didn't help that I just met my wife, who was very, very supportive of and still is, of everything. But, you know, when you're like 19, I was 21. 21, just met someone, and all of a sudden I'm away for like 3 months. Like, there was all these things, and I've got quite a complicated relationship with food and dieting, and that can be quite negative. So traveling back then was something I didn't really enjoy. There was an element of what you've said there, where actually you're only in a country for like 2 days, and you've got the show and your jet lags. But the reality is, it was more a problem within me as opposed to the schedule, because the other boys in the band absolutely loved it. So I think for me, though, now getting a bit older, I now really throw myself into travel, and I love it. I really, really love people and speaking to people from different backgrounds and cultures and and everything. So that's something moving forward that I'm really going to look forward to doing. The travel is one of those things that, like, again, it's funny. It's like, oh, woe is me, tiny violin, because you know, whilst I was traveling around the world in business class, you know, my friends were like trying to scrape some money together to go to like Kavos. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
and like, you know, Kavos, I'm sure is great, but like, you know, they're at university, not, you know, with not much money, and I'm doing this tour. So I do feel slightly naughty when I kind of moan about that, but I feel I can moan about it because now I really appreciate it. So much so that I'm like desperate to get traveling again. But it's again, the last point on this, like I said before, with things happening so fast and constantly looking to the next thing, it kind of has resulted in this bit of memory blur for me, where now when people ask me, oh, I had this like maybe 3 weeks ago, someone asked me if I'd ever been to, where was it? Oh, Oklahoma it was. And I was like, I don't know. So I Googled it, like the Vamps, Oklahoma. And I was like, oh, I have been there. Like, and that happens quite a lot with things when people ask me if I've been to places. And I really don't like that, because I'd love to be like, yeah, I remember going to Oklahoma. And I actually do remember it now, because I looked at the pictures and it was crazy. But there's so many of these things that are kind of little fragments that come and go into my mind of where I've been and if I've been somewhere. And so on one hand, I've got this amazing privileged position of like a checklist of, when I actually look into it, okay, where have I been? There's not many places left. Like, if you were to ask me where do you want to go, I'm very lucky. There are, maybe I can count on one hand places I've not been that I still want to go to. But the places I have been to, I couldn't really tell you much about them. So I don't really know if that where I'm at.
Yeah. Do you think, I'm purely asking this because this is something that I actually struggle with as well, especially when I travel. And I think with me, I think there's an element of control that I try and put on situations in order to do my job. So like my job is quite methodical. It's very much like you need to film in certain frame rates. You need to do certain things. If it's not my way, I feel like it's wrong. And in myself, I get quite stressed at that. So like, because there's just so much in my mind, right? I need to storyboard a video. I need to film it. I need to make sure I've got cinematics. I need to script it. I need to be presenting in a fashion that people enjoy and is palatable and educational, but also kind of entertaining. Do you think there was an element of the lack of control that travel has coming into it? Because like, from what I can see in your personality, you mentioned like there's obviously the stuff with food that you might have had a kind of bad relationship with. Does it come down to control?
Yeah, massively. And I did, again, not to go to sort of like LA, I did I did something called the Hoffman process a few weeks ago, which, you know, for those that are interested, if you Google it, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into when I signed up for it. It's all about exploring why you are, how you are, and who you are, and it just life-changing stuff. And control is something I've always struggled with, you know, and that a lot of that is centered in my kind of negative relationship with food. Also, why I think I was so tetchy on, you know, in earlier years with the band, and it's been, you know, like issues in my relationships, and whether that's friends, partners, whatever. And now I've done that process, I realize where that comes from and how to deal with it. And I think so. Even when you were saying about you have to sort of almost tick mental boxes in your head, I like what I want to do is be like, oh, where do you think that comes from? Okay, who in your life do you think maybe that like you've got that from? Like, but I'm literally not allowed to do that shit after they say don't try and like be a therapist, but for me, like, I was living kind of year by year, very, very stressed and really struggling with that lack of control. And obviously, yeah, traveling, I think you have to be a certain type of person to be able to be so nomadic that you can go on the road and not really care what happens. So, like, again, just because I've done like a lot of work on myself, it doesn't mean that it's not hard, like to go travel. A lot of people would be stressed. That's not weird, but I think I'm definitely not the sort of person that, like, our drummer once, when we were going on a world tour, he turned up, we picked him up to go to Heathrow. He turned up with an empty backpack to do like a 4-week world tour. And he was like, dude, I'll sort it out on the road. And I'm like, and it's funny because back then I was like, I remember being like almost annoyed. I was like, how can you do that? But now I look back and I'm like, dude, let's go. Like, that's a level of freedom I can't even imagine having, and just being like, whatever, man. So you're right. I think the sort of person that perhaps I was in those years maybe is not the type of person that would thrive doing the job I did. I think there was a lot of internal conflict in those years, but hopefully now I can approach that in a healthier mindset.
Yeah. And I know that we've got so much to talk about because the watches haven't even come up yet, so that's something that we need to touch base on. But I want to ask you one more question on the more personal front, and it's to give her some credit because she's been there from the start, from what I can see. What impact has your wife had on everything?
I mean, yeah, like an impact on everything in every way, I think. Kind of like I was alluding to before about when we were speaking about managers and record labels, like trust and support are things that are so valuable and precious in anything you do, no matter what the industry, but in mine in particular, or anything, I guess, like performing arts, and there's so much vulnerability in what you do that you need to be able to have a relationship with someone where you can have full transparency, not be afraid to embarrass yourself, be able to just kind of say it how it is, and also have someone that will ride with you, knowing that there will never be stability really in my career, really, like not forever stability. And I mean that financially, but also emotionally. It's so up and down. And I think being able to be with someone who, you know, I was my wife's first like relationship. You know, she was just about to start university, and all of a sudden she met this guy from this band, and that was it. So like for her, it's been like she never wanted, I guess, to be with someone like me. Like she's you know really not she really doesn't. She's not drawn to that world of, you know, like tabloids and fame and all that stuff. Like, which is definitely what it was like back then. So it's been a real process, and you know, there's been some really hard times for her. You know, being like sort of 19 years old with the Daily Mail posting photos of you, like, and it's just weird. But over years, we've kind of learnt to really enjoy the perks of what I do, you know. And again, the travel's a big thing. Like, my wife hadn't done much traveling before, like me, and we really kind of built in some time for ourselves around little trips. And for me, it was really it was really important, like a fundamental from day one, that she would get on with the Vamps boys. So, you know, I really, really tried to introduce them early, and she's been there all along. And like one of my favorite like memories was a couple of times ago in Japan, because my wife loves Japan. I was really tired on it. We were in like one of, I think we were in Shibuya, maybe, in one of the really small bars where you can fit like 10 people in there. And and I was like, I'm going to go to bed. I want to go. And Kirsty was like, no, I'm going to stay out. And my wife spent the whole night with the other Vamps boys, got like really drunk, got in at like 2 a.m. And I was like, this is exactly what I want to have my life. So like my best friends, my business partners are best friends with my wife, and that's brilliant. So it's hard to find people that will put up with musicians, especially people like me that are so up and down mentally. And she's just been great, and I don't really give her enough credit, but I should, because she works bloody hard. So yeah, she's been great.
Yeah, it's something that I didn't consider either until I think my girlfriend and I had a conversation about this. I'm gonna say like 6 months ago, and we've been together for about almost 2 years. And she was like, "You do realize that like it's quite difficult to make plans with someone that doesn't know where they're going to be next week." And I was like, I never actually thought of it from your perspective, because like she'll try and plan things in, and I'll be like, there could be a brand that messages me, and then all of a sudden I'm in Finland or something, and I need to keep things free. So it can be very difficult for the partner of someone that has the job that unstable is probably the words. Like it's unpredictable. It can be really difficult for them to plan things in and have any kind of structure. And it's like this kind of weird. It's a weird kind of oxymoron. The word. It's just like I like probably yourself would probably benefit by having structure. But my job and what I enjoy doesn't have any structure at all.
Yeah, I think there's also an element that I definitely have been trying to work on for the last few years, where the narrative of our relationship has always been my career. And I think when you do that, you negate the fact that there's another person in the partnership, in the marriage. And I think it was definitely a point in the early years where my wife's identity was the Vamps, which, is a really weird thing and quite difficult for, obviously there's perks to it again, but really it was hard. And my wife is an extremely driven academic woman. She's got 3 degrees, for God's sake, from like the top unis. Like she kills it. But, if you put her name into Google, it will just come up with probably a picture of me. And I think that's something that I'm conscious of now in a way I wasn't. And it's about allowing her to like shine in her own right, instead of just being like a side stage at a Vamp show, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's incredible, man. It's really cool that you've kind of made that. People spend their whole lives and never figure that out, and the fact that you figured that out is really, really special. And then like it'll definitely I don't want to say pay dividends in the long run. That is not the phrasing for that, but you kind of get what I mean. One more question before we move on to watches, because I'd love to ask you about this. But you see the kind of like the drug and alcohol scene in, I mean, there was that horror story with, the One Direction gentleman, like really, really sad, like incredibly sad. Is that still as prevalent today? Like, is it kind of expected that when you're on the road, you get drunk and you snort whatever you're snorting, and like, or is it very much like you're, do you know what I mean? Like you're hanging around with people that are doing drugs. If you're not doing them, then are you part of that scene?
I think I'm very fortunate that my experience with the other Vamps boys has never really been that. Also, just like younger people from younger, fucking hell, I'm 32 and I'm saying younger people, but I spend a fair bit of time with people in the industry that are like 10 years younger, and actually they're a lot cleaner than my generation are. But from my experience, I don't know whether it's as simple as just saying, oh, you're trying to replace the high of being on stage with something off stage. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but that is also relevant. People do that. There's also a weird thing of like the opposite of trying to replace, that kind of come down and relax. You know, like I was saying, there's been times where I've come off stage and I've been in bed in a hotel within like 40 minutes of coming off stage, and like my body's like really like that. But I mean, I speak about this loads, so I don't care. But like, you know, I've had a very up and down relationship with like weed and alcohol. And I think the pandemic for everyone was like a weird time. And I noticed that, like, for me, things can quickly turn into being a negative as opposed to like an occasional thing that's quote unquote harmless. Like, and I'm definitely that sort of person that uses it as a coping mechanism. That kind of can quickly turn into a darkness in my life, which is weird. And I think also like the age that I am now in the industry is an interesting one, because I'm 32. I'm not a 17-year-old on TikTok anymore, but I'm not kind of in my 50s. I'm still very passionate, very hungry to do music. And I think I wouldn't have admitted this maybe 3 months ago before I did, you know, Hoffman and really have not been smoking and things. But I think there's an element of wanting to cling on to this image of being young, exciting, like energy in the music industry, which, and actually you can achieve that without taking drugs and drinking. But I think for me, there was a bit of that where I'd be like, well, if I got really high, then I'd be like, I wouldn't worry about the future. I'd just be like, this is like, great, cool, fun, whatever. It's a Tuesday and I'm really high and like, whatever, like I'm happy, blah, blah, blah. Or like I drink loads. And I feel like it was an escape as opposed to, you know, like you have like maybe a couple drinks and it's like, it can, if you're at a gig, it might enhance the gig. You might be like, like, I feel, you know, I'm a bit looser, I can dance and whatever. But then, you know, if I have like 10 drinks, it's like, well, that's escaping, that's not enhancing. And I think my relationship with drugs and alcohol was turning more into escape than enhance. But the problem with drugs and alcohol for me is like, I've gone through this before, like in sort of, you know, 3 years ago, really, really bad with weed and drinking. And I quit weed for a year. And I remember thinking like, that's me done. I'm not doing that anymore. That's really negative. And what's crazy about cannabis is, for me anyway, it's like a little thing sat on my shoulder where it's like, you can do it a couple times. You know, actually, I'm fine. I can have a healthy relationship with this. But with me, it's like, it's constantly like tapping me on the shoulder, being like, go on, just like have one more, like have another spliff. Like, it's fine. I know it's a Wednesday, but it's cool. It doesn't matter. It's the summer. Like, you come up with these excuses, and before I realize, it's every day. And again, I'm back in those vicious cycles of doing this. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why do I feel like I need to be taking drugs or drinking every single day? So the industry is a weird one where there's no negative consequence. The industry is not going to say to you, it's not like working a 9 to 5 where you walk into an office and you're really high or drunk, and like someone's going to say, well, look, you're high and drunk, you shouldn't be here, go home, or you're fired, right? I can, if I want to, I could smoke weed every day, all week, and the only person that's going to suffer is myself and my wife, obviously, which is awful for her. But it's very easy to slip into these habits, and also in, you know, with a lot of what the music industry is. In fact, any culture, it's always like, oh, let's go for a drink or whatever. Like, it's very easy, especially in London or main cities, to realize you're drinking 3, 4, 5 nights a week. And with me, as soon as I've like had a few drinks, my like that darkness I was speaking to here, it like kind of comes up, and it's like, come on then, let's have another drink. Or why don't you like text your dealer? And it's about now being like, no, James, it's a Wednesday. You don't need to do that. So it's an interesting question that you say. And, you know, fortunately, I've never been into, you know, cocaine or anything like that. Thank God. I think for me, that would be really dangerous. There are people, obviously, that go through some really crazy, horrible addiction stories. But I think that things like Liam tragically passing, like, there's this I'd like to think that every horrible thing that happens like this, people are reminded, well, look, this is actually it's really dangerous stuff. Like, it's not, I don't know anyone that takes cocaine regularly that would encourage people to take cocaine. And I always think with that, it's like, okay, there's a reason that that's happening. It's like, it's probably not something that I should be doing. And again, it's, if things are an escape, and not an enhancer, then that's where I realize there's a problem, I guess.
Yeah, I think you put that pretty eloquently as well. I think that if you get to a point that you are drinking to get absolutely fucking wrecked instead of enhancing something, there's potentially an issue of why you're drinking. And we all have those pals that just take it one step too far. I used to be one of those people that I had no purpose in my life. So I was like, oh, well, I can get fucked and I don't know what's going to happen. But I think it's related to purpose, right? I think that for me, anyway, in the start of my career, I was like, I need to get up at 3 a.m. to go climb in Monroe to catch a sunrise, to shoot a watch. So I can't drink tonight. Like that's because I have a purpose, or people might have a purpose of, well, I have a job tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I'm not going to drink. But if you're stripped from all that responsibility because you have a job that is extremely flexible and you can tour when you want to tour and you can do what you want to do, it's almost like you have too many options. Like, and it's very easy to kind of deviate from the normal pattern of waking up at 9 a.m. instead of waking up at like 5 p.m. There's tons of artists that talk about this, how they'll totally flip their sleeping pattern. Ed Sheeran was one of them. He talks about how when he was on tour, he used to just like sleep on the couch all day and then get up at 9 p.m. and then just stay up all night. And he said he used to do that for like years, and he was really unhealthy, and it's not something that you can continue. Like, it will catch you eventually. What do you think the dark side of fame is?
Well, actually, first of all, to end that point, alcohol's always provided and it's free as well, everything you do, unless you specify not to. So that's another thing. Cost is normally what prevents people when they're like in their teens and early 20s from drinking, But with me, it's like you go into gigs and on our rider, if you wanted to, every night you could have 3 bottles of champagne, 50 beers, a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of gin. Like, it's easy. So that's one thing. The dark side of fame, I don't think that as humans we are meant to be what we say is famous, quote unquote. I think that we're extremely social, but I think that the groups that we move in, I don't know if it was in like Sapiens or something, but like there's a number, isn't there, of people that we technically can like coexist with happily with that equilibrium. I can't remember what number it is, but it's not as much as people think. So I think anyone that's exposed to a level of attention and fame is already kind of breaking that threshold of mental comfort. And the thing that's scary about that is you don't realize how weird and abnormal that position is until you're quite deep into it. So it's not like, I don't know, it's not like jumping into a freezing cold lake and be like, oh my God, that's crazy, I'm going to get back out. It's like a very gradual kind of like walking into a river that gets slightly colder as you go. Before you realize you're like, shit, this is crazy. I think the dark side of fame, I think the scary thing with fame is how fleeting it is and fragile as well. I think a lot of people go in head first and, do what we were saying before, drugs, alcohol, spend loads of money, make crazy decisions, and then the fame or whatever, the society moves on, especially with the nature of social media and Spotify and stuff. And then you're kind of left behind and you're kind of a bit damaged and broken. I think there's a lot of positives or opportunities to do good things from fame, but I think actually at the crux of it, no one really should be famous. And there's this weird irony that the most talented, creative visionaries of music, art, dance, whatever, culture that are famous are the exact people that should really never be famous, because most of those sorts of people are up and down all the time. They're like, typically quite manic depressants, really eccentric and incredibly gifted, colourful people that fame kind of just destroys them. I don't know too many people that are incredibly famous that I would view as like completely fulfilled or happy. Because also from a money perspective, you know, it's not that strange to me anyway, knowing that or seeing that, you know, people that get really famous really young kind of have like car crash moments in their early years, because again, it's like people, and I know that we're starting to gradually shift this kind of like this mindset, but really most people in the world still kind of work a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday for, I mean, the retirement age keeps on going up. I don't even know what it is now. It's probably 70 in the UK now, for all I know, 68, 69, I don't know. But, you know, you work for the best part of 50 years, then you retire, you have, you know, if you're lucky, 20, 25 years, probably less now, probably 10, and then you die, and you kind of, you know, and you pay your mortgage off, hopefully, if you're very lucky in the last kind of third of your working life, or maybe at the end, in that, you know, it's probably a lot less people actually that do that than they used to when it was our parents' generation. But the whole model of society is based on you kind of work gradually over your life, and you have the occasional holiday. Again, people can't afford to do that anymore. And you kind of, you know, people kind of have similar lives, right? And you have goals that some of them you achieve, but the big goals, the real goals that we all set in our heads, or we think the goals of having, I don't know, a really big house by the sea, or like this car, this guitar, this perpetual calendar. Like most of us never get those things, but they're kind of goals that are there. It's like we all fucking play. Well, I don't, but people play the lottery, and you know, most people never win, right? If all of a sudden you win the lottery at the age of 17, that drive and like determination, those goals getting met, just are, it just, you lose. It's like your compass just completely stops or won't stop spinning. It's like, what do you do? And I think fame, big fame, like, I mean, like life-changing fame where you make a hell of a lot of money when you're young, that is something that, again, I don't think is part of what should happen in society, because you just get lost. We are programmed to never really achieve all of our goals, I think. And I think that's a good thing, because it keeps us hungry. It gives us a purpose in life. If you're massively famous, what's your purpose? You know, people go to philanthropy and stuff. Cool. But often to get to that point, you do a lot of like massively like disastrous decisions before that point, and probably hurt a lot of people and often end up dead. So fame is a weird one, man. I think the dream level of fame is like a little bit famous, but do you know what I mean? Like crazy fame is not something I think is good for anyone.
Yeah. I do think that the purpose thing that you said there is absolutely true. There's a name for it. I'm sure they call it like gold medal syndrome or something like that. It's like when people in the Olympics reach that point and they actually get the gold medal, they walk away and they think, "Fuck, what do I do now?"
Yeah,
and they're like, "Well, that's my whole life. Is, you know, it's all been for this, and now I have nothing." Like they've won it, and all of a sudden, instead of feeling, you know, incredible excitement and proud, they feel depressed. And it's like because they've hit the ceiling, and they're like, well, where else do I go? And that's why I think it's super important in any industry. And this is what I've done, and I kind of not direct, but I try and advise people to do that come to me asking, is diversify. So like if you're good at photography and you have a big Instagram following, start getting into videography, and then start doing YouTube and start doing Photoshop and stuff. Like, because if you diversify, then you've got what one thing might take off, but it will come down. Like what goes up will come down. So you might think, you might wrap your identity around YouTube, and then all of a sudden the YouTube channel drops off. And it's like, well, who are you? Whereas like if you have a podcast, a YouTube channel, an Instagram page, you're a photographer, you're a videographer, you can do all these different things. It's like, well, YouTube's dropped off, but now I'm going to focus on the podcast, and I'll keep that running until it comes back, but I've got different stuff that I'm doing. Whereas people, especially musicians, they'll be like, I'm part of this band, that band is my identity. And if it hits a level of fame and then kind of it starts to dwindle, they think, fuck, I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And then also at that point as well, like how many 20-year-olds do you know that sell businesses for like 50 million quid that, one, are happy like in the long run, and then two, don't end up working in something else again? Like we are not, like people do not just, I mean, I'm sure there are some people that somehow do it, but most people I know that got very successful very young, whether it's selling businesses or whatever, they lie on a beach for 3 months, but then they come back miserable and end up working again. It's like, and that's why with the diversifying thing, that's interesting as well, because you put, and I'm kind of in this category, you know, all my eggs are in the world of music. I mean, like I do stuff in the watch world too, but like the main thing is music for me, because I'm a musician. I love it. Like, but I think if there are, you know, if people do have a variety of different interests, you're right. It's like if one thing, like you mentioned, if the YouTube channel drops off, but dude, what happens if YouTube in its entirety just goes, and all of a sudden there's a new app, like what happened with, you know, TikTok, and somehow Instagram is now back again, but like, you know, YouTube was dwindling, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, right? And now that's kind of back with the shorts, and like you think like we used to have Musically or the other Vine, like.
Oh, Vine was huge.
They're dead. Like, so yeah, diversifying is key, man. And I'm not very good at that. So yeah.
Well, I think it's super important, but it's not just important for like work-wise. It's important for personal development. Like, and this is why I remember I spoke to you and I was like, mate, you need to get on that YouTube grind, because you learn so many different things from it, like editing, filming, frame rates, lighting, you know, Photoshop, thumbnail editing. Like there is so many niches. If you have a YouTube channel that you could go into by themselves, like we will hire thumbnail experts, or we will hire specific editors, or like, and that's all things that you can learn through the kind of plethora of stuff that does, you know, you do through YouTube. How did well, I suppose you have diversified in a way, because you've gone into the watch niche, right? How did that obsession start with watches?
I love how we're an hour and a half in and now we start speaking about watches. I love it.
It'll be another hour and a half later.
So yeah, the watch thing, I mean, I've been collecting maybe 7, 8 years. And really, I mean, I've said the story loads, so I'll do a concise version. It basically, my father-in-law has been collecting for, I think, 15, 20 years, and was kind of nagging me to get into watches. And I was quite reluctant for a while, and for some reason I was in the Seychelles filming for some like TV advert, which is quite funny. You know, where it's like I don't know if UK listeners will know what I mean, but you watch like the ITV1 shows in the morning, or for you it would be like, what's ST or something, and it's like This Morning, and it's like, you could win a holiday to blah, blah, like win £100,000. You could spend it on this, and it's like, I'm doing the voiceover and I'm in the Seychelles. You could come to the Seychelles, and I'm like swimming. Like, it's like, you could stay here. Like, and this is one of those things again, like you mentioned before. It's like, look, I actually loved it. It was great, but I was there for 2 days. You know, the Seychelles, it's a bloody long way. I was filming all day. And I also have a phobia of the ocean, and I was swimming in this anyway. But when I was swimming there, for some reason, that was the moment I was like, I will finally let my father-in-law win, and I will buy a watch. Because I was swimming there, and I was like, I would kind of love to be able to have a watch that I could swim in. And I think it's something like, for some reason, I was thinking of kind of, you know, like James Bond subs. Like, little did I know how much those things were going for. You know, like the no crown guard, like things that like the Black Bear 58 kind of is an homage to. I thought maybe I'll get something like that without realizing. And that was kind of the moment. I was like, no, I will get a watch. And also there's a photographer called Ed Cook who has worked with the Vamps for he actually was the first photo shoot we ever did. We were his first shoot and he was our first shoot. So we did it in 2013, 2014. And he was wearing a no date sub. It was actually on a leather strap, which I think is quite funny, and I'm sure very divisive for watch community listeners having a dive watch on.
It's
yeah. But so I knew about the Submariner, I said to my father-in-law, "Oh, what do you think about like me getting a Submariner?" So that was already kind of in my mind. And then when I was in the Seychelles, and I was thinking, well, you know, Submariner, James Bond, this is what I'm going to get. And it was before the time. I mean, what year would we have been? Well, actually, it wasn't that long ago. It was 2018, or maybe the start of 20. It was February 2019, actually. So that was when I bought my first watch. It wasn't actually that long ago, 6 years ago. and it was just obviously before the pandemic. Submariners were, I imagine getting one from retail was still hard. I didn't know anything about ADs or anything. I asked my manager, do you know anyone that knows anything about watches, as in like buys and sells watches? And he sent me a number of his friend who I knew, and I was like, I really like a Submariner, but actually I think I want an Explorer 2 because I liked the thought that I just liked a white dial. I didn't really know anything. Literally didn't know anything about watches, but I liked the fact. It's funny actually, even back then, I could pick up on the Explorer 2 being a little bit more of a culty underdog favorite, right? Even then, without knowing anything, I was like kind of drawn to the Explorer 2. And the only reason really I went for the Sub was because there wasn't an Explorer 2 readily available from my friend. And at the time, Explorer 2s were trading for about maybe $4,500.
Oh my God.
But Submariners, I mean, I can't remember what I paid. I think I paid $7.5, and it was it's a lot of money as well. That's the other thing. Like, it's a lot of money, but I'd just done I'm a Celeb. I was very fortunate that I never, and again, like, to caveat it, I never had spent any money on anything. I'm not the sort of guy that would have ever bought anything like that, anything designer, or, every penny I had gone into my flat. So I was feeling a bit like, fuck it, like, I'm going to buy a watch, thinking it would only be one. And yeah, just a Submariner came up before an Explorer 2, so I took like an envelope of cash to a cafe in Notting Hill and bought this Submariner, and it was 2016, and I got it in 2018, so it was pretty good condition. It was a date though, date sub, so obviously Cyclops haters come at me, and that watch, it's crazy. That watch was I toured that watch around the world for like a year, and I went from, I was walking like the streets of Mexico City with this Sub on, all through like Paris, all through London, like the places you wouldn't really do that now with. I took that watch around the world, and it was, that was my watch. So that's how it started. But as I imagine a lot of people can sympathize with, I got a message from, Steve, my father-in-law, saying, "Oh, Tudor have just brought out this." I think actually my second watch, I think was the Vertex MP4. What year did the Black Bay 58 come out? Can you remember off the top of your head?
I'm going to say I was 22.
Okay.
5 years?
I'm going to go
5 years ago?
This is going to annoy me if not, because I need to get the chronology right. So Tudor,
58,
Black Bay
released.
58, yeah. I don't know when this...
2000, the GMT is 2024, but that's not the actual...
No, I mean the original...
2012, holy shit.
Well, no, okay, that's not the one I mean. I mean the one that, if I say Black Bay 58, and it's the one that literally looks like the OG Sub,
because that
can't be right. Wait, are you showing me something? Wait, no.
Wait, can I share my screen? I wonder if I can actually share my screen.
I'm just trying to find out when it is. What, how?
I can share my screen.
Wait a sec, go on. You, this is really fun for people listening, isn't it? Really fun.
I know. If they're watching on YouTube, they would see it. Right.
So, I don't think that...
That,
no, that's... No. Oh.
Oh, that looks like the OG.
That's the OG. No. So it's like that, but it's got the red marker on the bezel at the at 12, I think. Yeah, like what? You see... Hey, there he is. Wow. You see... Okay, so you see on the picture... The one that's up, if you go down, the one below that you're looking at there, that's So whenever that 2022 that says, okay, that's interesting. So my chronology is a bit off, but okay, I'll tell the story anyway, and we'll just allow some creative license. But
yeah,
I got a actually no that does make sense, because I took my Submariner around the world. That was my only watch for a while, and then I got a Vertex MP4 really randomly, actually. Like, again, I didn't know anything about Vertex. Big history fan, so kind of looked... I was introduced to Don, who is at the helm of Vertex, whose, I think, great-grandfather was one of... Well, there was the guy that ran it for, like, the Dirty Dozen years and all that. It's either grandfather or great-grandfather. So, like, when I realised there was, like, a Dirty Dozen connection, that really excited me. So I I was introduced to Dom through a guy that I did I'm a Celeb with. So really random, because he was wearing an M100, which is kind of like was the watch that Vertex like came back with after sort of not making watches for however many years. So I got that, and then my father-in-law was like, "Well, Tudor have just brought out this thing, Black Bay 58. I think it's a really good one to get. It's time only." And I was like, "Well, Steve, I've already got a dive watch, kind of thing. Like, what's this?" And, well, it's not really like, it's not just like, it's not that. It's sort of like Thule, and it's different enough. It's time only, and your Submariner's got like a date and all this stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, but, and basically what I'm getting at is I realized pretty quick that you need a tool watch, you need a dress watch, you need a chronograph, you need a moon phase, you need a perpetual calendar, all this stuff, chronograph. And so once I'd got the Black Bay 58, that was number 3. And from there, I think number 3 is where things go drastically wrong for us watch collectors. And that was it. But I think I almost feel a little bit embarrassed saying my first watch was a Submariner, because I realized, like, for some people, just getting into watches, spending anything over a couple £100 on something that's a watch just seems like an alien concept. And I find it interesting how I say this all the time on podcasts, how we somehow rationalize spending £7,000 on a watch in a way that we wouldn't. Like, for example, yesterday my wardrobe broke. I've been overstacking it with stuff, and the thing just snapped, and I need a new wardrobe. The thought of spending anything over maybe £500 on a wardrobe, I'm like, I'm not doing that. But I'm already thinking I'm going to spend $6,000 in Japan for a watch in October. It's funny how we do that.
Yeah.
So that's how it started for me, mate. And that was 2018. So quite a few years now, and it's carried on.
And what is the brand that sticks out to you at the moment for being most exciting?
That's most exciting is an interesting one. I think that I really, really like, and I know it's probably not the brand that everyone's jumping to, but I think Ulysse Nardin are doing some really interesting things. Like that Diver Air, it's not to everyone's taste. Obviously, I get that, and the brand itself is, it's quite an expensive brand, but just from pure innovation, I think UN are great. I'm a massive, massive fan of Universal Genève. Like that, I don't own any UG yet. That's going to be next on the list, I think. But the thought of Breitling bringing that back is something that, and Galet as well. I'm really excited for those two things. But I'm also nervous because, when they did those pole routers for, was it an auction? I think they did in the end, and There was like rumors that pole routers are going to be like £15,000 or something. I'm just like, if that happens, then I'm a little bit scared, I think. But as brands that I'm excited for, like buzzing for, UG coming back is I'm buzzing for. And then on like a different level, like sort of smaller stuff. Let's think. I mean, obviously, like everyone knows, I'm a big fan of Christopher Ward, like genuine fan. And knowing I think what they did with the Loco was just really impressive. And people think I'm weird speaking about like power reserves, but I think 6-day power reserve on something like that for the price was amazing. New in-house movement. That's exciting for me. As I think there's so many like micro brands or things, and Chris Ward are one of the few that are actively trying to do something interesting, I think. So them. And then let's have a think. I'm not too sure. I'm trying to think what else. The thing is, mate, there's so many. I really like Raymond Wheel, actually. Weirdly, I think and
they're
Frederick
so
Constant as well. Frederick Constant and Raymond Wheel, dude.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Like, maybe people would have thought, but from my perspective, they've never even been on the radar. And then I've seen there's like a Frederick Constant, I can't remember the name of it, but it just makes me think of like, it's almost like it's like an integrated bracelet. It's almost like a Piaget meets.
I know exactly.
You know what I mean? Is it going to be an M or something? I don't know. But it looks like, it's like Piaget meets almost like an AP bamboo.
I saw it at Watches and Wonders.
Yeah. and it's marketed for women, but I'm like, dude, I'd wear that.
Is it
I'll find it.
Oh no, that is not it.
Just put Frederick
there
Constant.
it is. High Life?
Is that what it's called? Let me go on it.
High Life? That's the integrated bracelet vibe, but that's it. Oh yeah, no, it is. It's High Life.
Is it? That's a interesting name. I didn't know it's called that. Why have they called it that? Let me have a look.
Yeah.
No, that's not what I mean. That's cool though.
Oh no?
That's not what I mean.
I think that's quite the bracelet on that's really nice.
That is. I've not even seen that. That is really cool.
There we go.
Have I got the wrong brand here? Am I like making up something? This is embarrassing.
Well, there's Chopard. Is there Chopard?
What am I thinking?
Because there's
of?
Chopard. What the heck? Wait, it might be Chopard. Let me get it up.
I think I've just made up something here. No, I'm not. I'm not.
Alpine
accepting...
Eagle.
No. I mean, I love Alpine Eagles. No, it is Frederick Constant, but I can't find the watch. Oh wait, I just saw it on the website. Where's it gone? Wait, stay there. Here it is. It's called the Manchette. Have you seen that?
Frederick Constant.
So put Frederick
Manchette.
Constant. It's like Manchette.
Manchette.
that
Oh
out.
right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Exactly. But the fact that you're like, I don't know, I
Yeah.
love that. But that's what excites me, because it's like, I don't know. At least it's a conversation. It's different. I quite like it. So that on one hand, that's the sort of watch that 2 years ago I'd be like, that is absolutely minging. But I actually really like that. So that's one
Because
thing.
it's new. It's something that's like not been done before.
Yeah, but it really is paying homage to like what even era is that? Like some time
That's
ago.
ancient. Yeah, that's like
Ancient.
18 18 something.
Yeah, so you've got that on one hand, but then, I mentioned Raymond Wheel, and they've got the Freelancer complete calendar, which is Patek-y, right? And that's, for $3,000 with those complications. I've got on one hand, I've got that excitement of UG coming back, but also with a bit of nerves. And then there's these other brands, and that integrated bracelet you showed me from Frederick Constant, I'd not seen that. But the fact that you've got companies like that really feel like they are actually trying to do something good, they're pushing the envelope in that way. That excites me, because I think, kind of like I was sort of throwing a little bit of shade to some of those older brands, it annoys me that they're not bothering to do stuff that's landing or being particularly innovative. And then you've got these other people, and I would almost throw Christopher Ward in that category too. From the Bel Canto to the Loco to even like the 12 Snake and the Something Coming later this year. They're trying to do good stuff, and I like brands that are trying to be innovative like that. But what about you? What's your most exciting brand in your opinion at the moment?
Yeah, well, on that point, I think that the marketing that Christopher Ward are doing, it's brilliant, because even if people aren't buying, let's say they do really limited edition pieces like the Snake, although it might not be for everyone, it gets people talking about the brand. And there's this really weird thing in the luxury watch industry where trends, they do repeat themselves, right? We saw this with mobile phones. Mobile phones they were really, really big. They then went really, really fucking small, like a Nokia brick. And now they're getting big again, but they'll probably go back down. Yeah. I wonder, just speaking hypothetically, if what Blancpain and Breguet are doing, because by the way, the movements and technology behind those watches are unbelievable. Breguet movements and Blancpain movements are some of the most beautiful I've ever seen. Yeah, but I wonder if they're trying to just outlast the wave of the 70s Genta design, because you have the new Rolex Land Dweller, you have the Tissot PRX, you have the Christopher Ward 12, you have everyone wanting a slice. IWC Engineer, they're all wanting a slice of that same pie. I wonder if Breguet and Blancpain are sitting there going, we're better than this, we'll ride it out. I do wonder if that's a conversation.
I think we appreciate what those brands are, and their heritage and the movements, and dude, it's great. But I don't know if that's enough, is what I'm saying at the moment, especially in the watch industry where it is, and things like social media bringing in this influx of younger people for better or for worse, whatever people, and that can be a conversation. But the reality is the demographic of people in the industry now is a lot bigger than it was pre-pandemic. I don't know how a brand like Blancpain is going to sell a 50 Fathoms for whatever it is, $15,000 anymore. I just don't know. especially I don't want to compare like brands like Tudor or Omega to Blancpain and Breguet, like, because they're not the same thing. But like, I don't know why someone's gonna to buy. I mean, a Tradition I absolutely love. That watch is insane. That's one of my favorite watches of all time. But again, I just don't know where those customers are for those brands, and I'm saying that in a sad way, because I'm like, they're great brands. I think they just rest on their laurels a little bit too much. And that's not to say I have any idea how they say. I think it's easy to just like say stuff. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I've really got to pee.
Dude, same. Oh my God. I was going to say.
What were we even talking about? I think we went down the rabbit hole with Blancpain.
You did. You asked me what my brands I was excited for at the moment were, and I kind of was like, well, what am I not interested in? And that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was actually going to say to you, are you keen? I can't say the brand specifically, but are you keen for Iceland? Did you like the photos I sent you?
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, man.
I think honestly it would be super, super cool. I'm thinking, because the Highlands of Iceland is like, it's relatively easy to get to as well.
Okay.
Iceland in general, and then you need to hire a car. Just to give people context of what we're talking about, we're thinking about filming a watch project for the channel in the Highlands of Iceland. But mate, it's I'll send you a video after this. But you essentially you need to rent like a massive 4x4, and you like do river crossings. You're driving on like these huge, just like barren. It looks like Mars. It's unreal. And also, I've got a spare drone as well, so I can get you a drone and you can start messing about with it.
I've got no idea how any of that stuff works, so I'm down.
I think you'd enjoy it. I think talking about the diversity piece, like I think creative types tend to be drawn to photography and video. And you like, there's so many people that I've been like, oh, just here's the drone, just have like a play with it. And then all of a sudden, like 2 years later, they're like a professional photographer and they like absolutely love to do it. Have you never tried anything like that?
I mean, not other than just like, I mean, I'm interested in it, like, you know, just taking photos on the road and stuff. But no, I've never. To be fair, I've actively not got into it because I was like, it's another expensive thing for me to get into. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's an expensive hobby. What do you think? I have a controversial opinion on this, but the Norcan ice cream, is it ice cream?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? Have you got one?
I borrowed one for a week in America last week.
Right.
Norcan. It's something ice cream. It's called, I can't remember.
Revival ice cream? Is it something like that?
Something like that. But I just call it the ice cream like you just have. So yeah, it's limited. I think don't know how many there are. Maybe like 10 in the UK, and I think maybe 100 in total around the world or something like that. I can't remember.
What do you think of it?
So I'm going through this phase of finding myself liking things that I wouldn't have liked a few years ago, like that Frederick Constant that I sent you. And I don't know why that is. I think it's maybe because there's so many things that we see that are, whether it's micro brands or main, you know, normal, you know what I mean? Major brands releasing similar thing after similar thing. So when I saw the ice cream thing, I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, like, no. But wearing it in the right context for me really made me like it more. I think the thing that I like about it is kind of, and this is probably not the reason that you should buy a watch, but it's always going to be a conversation starter at something. And I think that's, you know, for me, watches are people right now. Like, it's all about chatting and having a good time. And I'd be more likely to go up to someone wearing that Norcan and speak to them about watches than I would if someone was wearing a Submariner or like a Daytona. Like, well, it depends on the Daytona. If it's like vintage, let's go. But I just, you know, I'm not really fussed about modern Daytonas or a Datejust. I'm fussed about things that are quite niche, that you know that someone is into. What you don't just happen to buy something like that ice cream, if you're not reading, or like a Studio Underdog, you know, you're not just going to happen to have that. So that's what I think, but I sense you're not a fan.
I have mixed opinion. I really like Norcan or Norcane. I've heard it pronounced in so many different ways, but I really like them as a brand. Like, I like what they're doing. They're doing something new. They're doing something cool. The only like I did a full. I think I did a video when I mentioned this watch. Like, I love the aesthetics. Like, it's new, it's fresh, it's summery. It's like, but then I was like, it's £4,000 and it has essentially like a Solita movement. And I was like, right, that is one thing that is hard to justify. It's hard to justify something like when something has. I mean, you look at the Christopher Ward, the new is it Belcanto or the
Loco?
Yeah, and that's like they're trying to put the in-house movement in it, and that's what makes it that little bit more expensive. And I get that. Like, I understand that. They're like doing something new. They've obviously put a lot of money into, creating this new movement. Even if I don't agree with the name, like, it doesn't really matter. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's a fine line between fun marketing, but having a serious price point that makes the marketing not fit. Does that make sense? Like, the Loco, it's very fun marketing. It's crazy, but it's $4,000. It's like that. That no longer is fun. That's like serious money. And the same goes with the ice cream. It's like, I love it, but it's fun marketing at a very serious price point that maybe shouldn't be considered fun. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I, to be completely honest, I didn't know how much the ice cream was, which is bad on my part. It is hard. I think actually. So, with Norcane, that's the first one I'd ever actually like had on my wrist. So I don't know if I can realistically talk about that properly. But with Christopher Ward, I think it's a really interesting one because I agree with everything you've said about. The new movement and I think the specs you're getting on that watch really good with that power reserve and stuff. But I think brands like Christopher Ward are always going to be presented with that challenge of if you think and I actually think that there was a hint of it with Studio Underdog, when they brought in that Swiss movement, and the price I think was like over $1,000. And these brands. That's going to be the biggest challenge to anyone. I can draw comparisons almost with the Vamps, where we did a tour. We did a tour like years and years and years ago, and we did really really cheap tickets. And I actually think the Vamps pricing has always been very fair. We deliberately try and make it as cheap as we can. But then, there's bands around that will charge like 5-10 times the ticket price, or for like VIPs and stuff, and do it. And like if we ever had, I think once we maybe raised a ticket price like a $5 or a $10 for something, and it's like, what you're doing, that's not what the band is, blah blah blah. And I think brands like Christopher Ward, we have been so used to, or that they're like an OG customer that's spending sort of £800 on something, or even the really early Christopher Ward fans that would get like coupons in the magazines and get like £100 discounts off. Changing that mindset of the brand and almost trying to evolve it is going to be so hard. Even when, in my opinion, the product, the innovation, the evolution from the design side is there, as soon as people start like increasing prices, that's really hard. And I don't think it's fair to I think like Omega and Tudor and everyone increases their prices, right? I don't think this is what I'm saying. I'm saying like Christopher Ward, I feel, have a justified and pushing the envelope in those areas, like nudging slightly into a couple of higher price brackets for those products. But I think I think what we're getting at, there has to still be like, you have to feel that you're getting value for that extra price increase, right? And I think with Christopher Ward, with the Loco, in my opinion, I think you're getting that. And some of the things they're working on, I think you're getting at that. But at the same time, you were always going to annoy that like core fan base. It's almost like it's always like when people fucking saw Ed Sheeran in a pub and be like, I remember seeing him in a pub and he's my thing, and all of a sudden now all these other people know about him, and now he's costing £100 to go to see him at Wembley Stadium, and I went for free. It's like there's always going to be gatekeepers on these things, but that's not to say that you are completely right with some things. Like I always think this with like high street kind of luxury fashion brands that make watches, and they'll charge £1,000 for something, and because it's got like a certain name on it that's associated with like luxury, but actually it's shit and it's worth like £100, but they're charging like 10 grand.
Yeah.
Oddly, like Louis Vuitton are doing great things. I don't mean them, but like, you know the sorts of things I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That is a very valid point. But with Norcan, I don't know too much about it to like comment on it, other than I enjoyed it on the wrist. I took it down.
It looked great.
Like River Rapids. Like I was like, no one else that's borrowed this watch is doing what I was like, fuck it. Yeah. It's got 100 meters water resistance. I'm doing it, man. So I enjoyed it. But yeah, for £4.5 grand, I think I see what they're. Do you think that they've done that? I mean, how much? But don't their other watches kind of, they're around that was sort of like the bigger 43 mil. I'm pretty sure that's £3.5-4 grand, isn't it? The big boy. I can't remember what it's called, because that's what I'm saying. Is this one particularly more expensive than their others? Because I thought they were kind of all around that.
Freedom.
Mark.
That's what it's called. Freedom, enjoy life.
Freedom. Yeah. So the Norcane Wild one, that's £3.5 grand. That's the one I was thinking of. So it's not.
Yeah.
You know, it's only. I say only. It's it's not crazy increase. So that's, I mean, they've got the cheap. I'm just looking here. They've got the cheaper one, like the Adventure. That's like 1,500. But I don't think it's.
I think I was thinking of.
Yeah. So that's why but yeah, I don't know.
It's quite
it's
a
hard.
big split, isn't it? Like to go from. I'm just looking at one now. It's like 1,500, 2,000 to 4. It's like quite a big spread.
Yeah, which again, Christopher Ward kind of do that as well. Like, which is hard. Like. But this is kind of what I mean. Maybe Norcane are thinking, well, how do we start pushing the brand? I mean, they've got a few things in that price bracket, but it's about evolving and pushing, not alienating. It's like, mate, it's like writing an album. You don't want to annoy the people that have got you to the point you've got to, but if you don't appeal to new people, then you're stagnant and you're never going to grow. So it's a job I do not envy.
Yeah, and the fact that Mark Wahlberg wore it probably helped. Like he seems to like him.
Really.
I mean, he does.
Does he though? Or like,
yeah,
I never know with him.
It's hard. Yeah, like it's very hard to know if they've got it on his wrist and they're paying him, or they've given him one free, or.
I mean, I don't even mean that from the brand side. I really like the people at Norcan. Like that's cool. I just mean from Mark's side, I feel like, does he really care about? I know he's a massive watch collector. I get that, but I just wonder whether he's now. I feel like he got that watch because he knew it was like really hype, and he's like, whether he's been given it or not, who knows? I don't really mind that, but it annoys me when it kind of tips into like, I've got to get this watch before anyone else, and look, here's me in the gym wearing this watch, and like blah blah. I felt a bit like weird. I don't blame the watch companies. It's just I don't know what I'm saying. Just annoys me a bit.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I know you've got a kind of hard out soon, but I want to ask you one more question, and this is something that you can answer any way you want, and I totally understand if you don't answer it.
All right.
Is there any funny stories about other celebrities that you have that people have done stupid shit that you can talk about? I know that the rugby boys, as soon as I ask them this question, they normally are like, I can't tell you that.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Oh, dude. This is not me like thinking, I can't say this. I'm trying to think.
It's like just dumb shit. They've been drunk. They've done something funny. Also, don't incriminate anyone as well.
I know. That's what I'm worried about. Oh God, I don't know. I'm really shit at being put on the spot with stuff like this. I need to have a think. I'm trying to think if I've done anything where it's like it's fine, so then I don't have to. So I can put myself in it. No, I can't because I don't know what. I can't say stuff about other Vamps members without knowing that that's fine for stuff to be said.
Just in case.
And then I don't want to like say something about another celebrity because then it would be like, no, I'm gonna be a good person and
media trained.
Well, ironically not, but I'm going to be safe. And then if I think of anything, I'll I'll send you a voice. I'll send you a video, and you can insert it.
Yeah, good. Well, listen, man, I just want to say, like, from the relatively little time that we've kind of been talking, the fact that you've spent so much of your valuable time kind of chatting to me and coming on these podcasts and YouTube video FaceTimes on trains about Tudor Black Bays, like all of that.
Oh, I saw that today in person. Yeah. Sorry, I know. No, sorry. I saw an actual one of those Black Bays in person. And I know you're trying to wrap up, but just the last thing. So I saw it. What, have you seen one in person? Like, what do you think if you've seen one?
I'm not gonna lie, I loved it.
Go on. Okay, sick. I didn't think the bezel was going to be as like mirrored as and it made me think of like a mini sub. That's what I was thinking a little bit, you know. But anyway, sorry, I've ruined your outro thing.
No. Listen, man, I just want to say, like, to find someone so kind of down to earth, and I suppose that's what the watch industry does, right? It brings people together, and I think it's a pretty beautiful thing. And I just want to say thank you so much for, spending the time chatting to me. And I'm sure there'll be an Iceland trip pending as well, and a part 2 to the podcast.
Dude, honestly, let's do part 2. And Iceland as well.
Yeah, hey, I'm keen. Right. Well, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much. Really enjoyed it.